Advaita Acharya Goswami is an incarnation of the Lord as a devotee. His loud calling was the cause for Krishna's incarnation. Whenever Sri Krishna desires to manifest his incarnation on earth, first he creates the incarnation of his respectable predecessors. Thus, respectable personalities, such as his father, mother, and spiritual master, all take birth on earth first. Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, Srimati Sachi Mata, and Srila Jagannath Mishra all appeared with Sri Advaita Acharya. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends in his human form, he sends ahead all his devotees who act as his father, teacher, and associates in many roles. Such personalities appear before the descent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Before the appearance of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there appeared his devotees like Srila Madhavendra Puri, his spiritual master Ishwara Puri, his mother Srimati Sachi Devi, his father Sri Jagannath Mishra, and Sri Advaita Acharya. Advaita Acharya, having appeared, he found the world devoid of devotional service to Sri Krishna because people were engrossed in material affairs. Everyone was engaged in material enjoyment, whether sinfully or virtuously. No one was interested in the transcendental service of the Lord, which can give total relief from the repetition of birth and death. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Advaita Acharya saw the entire world to be engaged in activities of material piety and impiety, without a trace of devotional service or Krishna consciousness anywhere. The fact is, in this material world, there is no scarcity of anything except Krishna consciousness. Material necessities are supplied by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. We sometimes feel scarcity because of our mismanagement, but the real problem is that people are out of touch with Krishna consciousness. Everyone is engaged in material sense gratification, but people have no plan for making an ultimate solution to their real problems, namely birth, disease, old age, and death. These four material miseries are called bhavaroga, or material diseases. They can be cured only by Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is the greatest benediction for human society. Translation. Seeing the activities of the world, the Acharya felt compassion and began to ponder how he could act for the people's benefit. Today is the very auspicious celebration that is worshipped by all Gaudiya Vaishnavas. It is the appearance day of Sri Advaita Acharya. In this age of Kali Yuga, the great hope for all humanity is the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, Kalera dosa nide rajan asti heka mahan gunar kirtanar eva krishnasya mukta sangha param prajayat. Kali Yuga is a vast ocean of faults. People are addicted to all sorts of sinful activities. People are spiritually very lazy, misguided. In the name of religion, people practice irreligion. The sufferings of Kali Yuga increase as this age progresses. However, there is one benediction, that simply chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can achieve the perfection of liberation. In fact, Srimad Bhagavatam declares that the great sages, they worship Kali Yuga as the best of all times. This is a great mystery. The nature of a saintly person is paradukha dukhi, that they see the sufferings of others as their own suffering. They are selfless servants of every living entity. So why an age where suffering is the worst? Is it worshipable by great devotees? The answer is given. Because in this age of Kali Yuga, the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead Krishna, appears in his most munificent and merciful of all incarnations, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to give what no other avatar has ever given. Pure love of Krishna, in the spirit of the pure love of the residents of Vrindavan, to everyone and anyone, for the simple price of having faith in the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. Advaita Acarya is supremely worshipable by the hearts of all of us, because it was on the basis of his compassion for the sufferings of all living beings that Lord Chaitanya appeared to propagate the Harinam Sankirtan movement. Srila Prabhupada and the great Acharyas cite from the scriptures, who is Advaita Acharya? He is the original of the Purusha avatars who are responsible for the creation of this entire material existence. That is Karanodakshai Vishnu, or Mahavishnu. He is very great. Krishna expands himself as Baladev, who expands himself as the Chaturvyuha, Prajumana, Aniruddha, Shankarshan, and Vasudev. And that Chaturvyuha expands as Lord Narayan, the Lord of Vaikuntha, who expands himself as a secondary Chaturvyuha. Shankarshan, of that quadruple expansion, manifests himself as Mahavishnu when it is the time for creation. He lays in the causal ocean in the Yoga Nidra, which is a spiritual state of sleep. In that full awareness of his Yoga Nidra, when he decides that it is time for the cosmic manifestation to be created, he exhales. During that exhalation, innumerable universes, countless universes, come from the pores of his body and from his breath. In each of those universes, Mahavishnu expands himself as Garbhodakshai Vishnu, from whose navel Lord Brahma is born. From Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu appears within the heart of every living being, as well as in an island called Svetadvip, which is a Vaikuntha world within this very material universe. When Mahavishnu inhales, not just this universe, but the entire cosmic manifestation with all its universes enter again into his body. Advaitacharya is this all-powerful Supreme Personality of Godhead. One expansion of Lord Shankarshan is Sadashiva, the original form of Vishnu, who is the source of Lord Shankar. Advaitacharya is the combined incarnation of both that Sadashiva and Mahavishnu. It is described that once Sadashiva prayed to Mahavishnu that the Supreme Lord Krishna would appear in this world in order to deliver all the fallen souls who are suffering. In great compassion, Lord Shiva, he fasted and prayed, and Mahavishnu appeared before him and told him that, and when they both embraced, they transformed into one transcendental form. And then it was told that in this wonderful form, beautiful golden in complexion, they would both together come to appeal to Lord Krishna to appear in the world. At that time, there was a great devotee named Kuvera Pandit who lived with his wife, Labha Devi. They were residing in Shantipur when the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared within their womb. While she was pregnant, they moved to a place in Bengal called Navagram, and that is where Sri Advaita Acharya appeared. On this very day, the seventh day of the waxing moon of the month of Magh. One of the great glories of Advaita Acharya is how he revealed the importance of devotional service. Advaita Acharya is the Supreme Lord. However, he always was eager to be the servant of the servant of the servants of the Lord. He never wanted to be called upon by God. He wanted to be the servant of the Lord, to show the world what is the glory of bhakti. Some people want to be God, but God wants to be the servant of his own servants. That is devotional service. Because the servant of the Lord is even more powerful than the Lord. By Krishna's sweet will, he becomes subordinate to the love of his devotees. Advaita Acharya was living later on again in Shantipur. And he and the devotees were seeing the lamentable condition of human society. In order to be close to Vaishnavas, he would spend much of his time in Navadvip. At that time, Navadvip was the high seat of learning for all the world. The greatest scholars from Mithila would come to Navadvip to learn Nyaya or logic. The greatest scholars of Varanasi would come to Navadvip to learn Vedanta. Scholars from the south part of India, of Kanchipur, also came to Navadvip to get higher education. Navadvip was full of so much opulence. The Lord arranged it in such a way to make it appropriate for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance. There were millions and millions of teachers and millions of students. At any bathing ghat, there would be hundreds and thousands of people taking their bath in the Ganges. And they were always challenging each other to see who could get a higher reputation for their material qualities. People were so much attached to material life. They would worship Mangala Chandi, a form of goddess Durga, for more and more material wealth and sense gratification. They would worship Vasuli, a incarnation of the goddess of the serpents. Especially very, very wealthy people would worship this serpent goddess for more wealth. People would accumulate so much money, and they would spend huge sums for the marriages of their children. People would create so many different articles for their sense gratification to enjoy. In this way, Navadvip was so prosperous materially, but spiritually, it was in great poverty. People were so proud, arrogant of their wealth, their beauty, their high education, that they cared nothing for the virtuous principles of humility and devotion. Nowhere was the name of Krishna chanted. The Bhattacharyas, Chakravartis, and Mishras, who are supposed to be the scholars of the Vedas, would discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, but never discuss anything about devotional service. This caused so much pain to the hearts of the Vaishnavas. You know what happens when you become proud. You think you have the right to judge others. From arrogance springs the fault-finding propensity. The people of Navadvip were constantly finding faults with one another. And especially they would find faults with the Vaishnavas, because they lived completely contrary to their whole purpose of life. The Vaishnavas were simple. They didn't care about material sense gratification. They had no forms of mundane entertainment. All day they would just humbly serve the Lord. They would chant his holy names. They would hear about him. Thus the people of Navadvip condemned the Vaishnavas. They even condemned each other. The devotees, seeing this condition, were so much immersed in compassion for the sufferings of those people. Every day they would gather at Advaita Acharya's house in Navadvip for at least 1 or 2 hours. There they would continuously discuss the topics of Krishna and chant the kirtan of the holy names together. Advaita Acharya was the leader of all the Vaishnavas. In fact, the entire town of Navadvip, they had to respect him because he was such a great learned scholar. He was considered the best of all Brahmins. He was the spokesperson for the entire path of devotional service. Advaita Acharya, seeing the compassion feeling compassion for these people, was constantly preaching the glories of Krishna consciousness. He described the scriptures in such a way that every word of every line, of every sloka, of every scripture only pertained to surrendering to Krishna. He extracted the essence at all times, which is pure devotional service. However, even the great Advaita Acharya, people were so much fallen that they would not hear from him. Sometimes the devotees, we become so frustrated. Srivas Thakur and his three brothers, Sri Ram, Sripati, Srinidhi, they would perform kirtan all day and all night at Srivas Angam. The people of Navadvip were so offensive. They hated the kirtan of the holy name. They would accuse that the king is a Muslim. If he hears about this chanting, he's going to come and punish everyone in Navadvip. Because of this, Srivas and his brother, who have basically gone crazy, they have lost all their intelligence. They're offensive to the Lord. The Lord is sleeping in his yoga nidra, and they're chanting so loud, if he wakes them up, he will destroy the whole universe. And if the Muslim king hears of this, he will come and punish all of us. We should beat Srivas and his brothers. We should tear down his house, throw it in the Ganga. When the devotees would hear these things, they would cry, "What illusion! People are plunged in such ignorance. In this age of Kali, there is only one hope. And that is the congregational chanting of the holy names. The devotees decided we should give up our lives. If we cannot help these people, why should we live? It was Advaita Acharya who gave them the strength to continue on. With great bliss, he said to them that I feel within my heart that the Supreme Lord will incarnate in this world. I vow that I will pray to the Lord in such a way, I will perform such austerities, that the Supreme Lord Krishna will personally descend into this world to deliver the fallen, ignorant souls. For no one else has the power to do it except Krishna himself. If the Lord Sri Krishna does not appear, you watch what I will do. I will assume my forearm form and I will sever the heads of all these atheists with my Sudarshan chakra. Advaita Acharya was reading from the Gautamiya Tantra how if one offers tulsi manjaris and Ganga water to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and prays, the Lord will fulfill whatever prayer is that. With this conviction, Advaita Acharya resided on the bank of the Ganges. And throughout the day, he would worship the form of Krishna in Shalagram Shila. Each day he would offer tulsi manjaris and Ganges water. As he would do this, he would cry out so loudly for Krishna to appear personally to inaugurate the Harinam Sankirtan movement. He fasted. He fasted for days and weeks and months. His prayers were so intense. His loud chanting of the holy name was so full of ecstatic love that it penetrated through all the different layers of material existence. It went beyond Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Swargaloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Maharloka, Satyaloka. Through the Brahmajyoti, the sound of his prayers entered into the atmosphere of Vaikuntha, where it attracted the heart of the Supreme Lord Krishna. It was on the basis of these prayers of Advaita Acharya that Krishna resolved to descend into this material world. Within Navadvip, Krishna sent his own mother and father, Nanda and Yashoda, as Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi. First the child Vishwarupa was born, and then in reciprocation of the devotion of Sri Advaita Prabhu, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally entered in the womb of Sachi Devi. He appeared on the full moon night of the month of Phalgun, at the time when there was a lunar eclipse. During lunar eclipse, everyone, as a ritual for the purpose of warding off inauspiciousness, was in the Ganges, loudly chanting the holy names. Lord Gaurasundar appeared. At that time, Advaita Acharya was living with Haridas Thakur in Shantipur. When they saw everyone chanting, they were thinking, let this lunar eclipse last forever. Never have we seen everybody taking shelter of the congregational chanting of the holy name. The entire environment was surcharged with so much auspiciousness. Advaita Prabhu and Haridas Thakur felt such joy in their hearts that they were dancing and dancing and dancing, chanting and singing. People could not understand why they are so blissful. Lord Chaitanya sent Advaita Acharya sent his good wife, Sita Thakurani, with wonderful gifts to offer the beautiful child of Sachi Devi. When Sita Thakurani saw this child within her heart, she understood that this is Krishna, the beautiful son of Nanda Maharaj, who has appeared with this most lustrous golden complexion. She brought various presentations and offered them with great love to the child. But Lord Chaitanya, in order to perform his lila according to his own sweet will, he completely covered the hearts of the devotees so they were not able to recognize him as being their worshipable Lord. Lord Chaitanya's older brother, Vishwarup, who was none other than expansion of Lord Nityananda Balaram, he had no attraction at all to this material world. When he saw the people of Navadvip so much immersed in educational studies, various types of businesses for sense enjoyment, his heart wept and wept and wept in sorrow upon seeing their state of affairs. They were utterly devoid of devotional service to Krishna. As Vishwarup grew older, he would leave his house early in the morning to go to Advaita Acharya's home. There, throughout the entire day, he would hear and chant the glories of Lord Krishna with the Vaishnavas. In fact, Vishwarup was such a scholar. He had such devotion. When he would describe the scriptures according to the essence of bhakti, the devotees would go mad with ecstasy. Advaita Acharya would roar like a lion. Sometimes when Advaita Acharya would be worshipping his deity, performing all the rules and regulations of puja exactly according to the scriptural standards, when he would hear Vishwarup describing the glories of the Lord, he would leave the deity. He would roar like thunder and embrace Vishwarup, weeping and crying. All the devotees blessed him. Each day Sachi Mata would cook, and she would send her little son, Vishwambar, Lord Chaitanya's name at that time, to get his brother. Little Vishwambar with his friends, they would be playing, covered with dust. He would run to the house of Advaita Acharya and say, Vishwarup, Mataji has cooked rice for you. Please come. He would pull his brother's dhoti. The devotees headed by Advaita Acharya, who were immersed in Hari Katha, when they saw the beautiful golden form of Nimai, their hearts swelled with ecstatic love. They could do nothing but stare at him with their eyes. They could not even speak about Krishna. They were so immersed in the beauty of every limb of this child. Then Vishwarup and Nimai would run home. The devotees would just be stunned. Advaita Acharya would say, this child is not an ordinary boy. His beauty is awakening so much ecstatic love in my heart, as if he were Krishna. Who is this child? But Lord Chaitanya would not allow them at that time to understand the truth of his true identity. Sometime later, after taking prasad, Vishwarup would immediately come back to Advaita Acharya's house till late at night, then go back to his home and sleep, and that was his schedule. Vishwarup did not want to live in a society where there was not the hearing and chanting of the glories of the Lord. One day, without telling anyone, he left his home to take sannyas. He became known as Shankar Aranya Swami. When Sachi Mata and Jagannath Mishra understood what had happened, it was like a great thunderbolt striking their soft hearts. The devotees headed by Sri Advaita Acharya, they were simultaneously in bliss that this child has renounced everything and has become a sannyasi to go in the forest, and they were merged in an ocean of lamentation because they no longer had his association. The devotees were weeping and crying at the loss of Vishwarup's wonderful satsang. How will we live without hearing his beautiful, beautiful discourses and seeing his beautiful devotion? As the devotees were weeping and crying, Advaita Prabhu, he called out very loudly, devotees, please do not lament. I can feel in my heart that Lord Krishna Chandra, he is living within this world right now, and he will soon reveal himself to us. So now, please happily chant the holy names. All the devotees began loudly chanting the holy names. Little Nimai was playing with his friends. He heard the chanting. He came running to the house of Advaita. Advaita Chandra Prabhu asked, "Oh child, why have you come?" Nimai, who was wearing nothing but the 4 directions, he looked at Advaita and smiled, replied, "Why have you called me?" Then he ran away. Advaita Prabhu and the devotees looked at him. They could not stop looking at him. They were wondering, who is he? Why? Why is he attracting my heart? It is described in Srimad Bhagavatam that Maharaj Parikshit asked Sukadev Goswami, how is it that the residents of Vrindavan loved Krishna more than their own children? This is impossible. We all know how much attached a person is to their children. You cannot love another person's child more than your own. But yet in Vrindavan, every gopi and every gopa love Krishna more than their own child. Can you explain this mystery to me? Shukadev Goswami described how Krishna is the super soul, Paramatma of everyone's heart. When the Paramatma leaves the body is nothing more than a dead corpse. Even your most beloved child, your most beloved friend, after the Paramatma leaves, you are no longer attracted with love to that body. You put it in the ground or you burn it out with fire. So actually it is Krishna who makes everything attractive within this world. He is the source of all life. He is the very origin of the Paramatma. So why should it be a surprise that the residents of Vrindavan loved Krishna more than anyone when he was revealing his full opposite to the Brijvasis? Similarly, little Nimai Pandit, everyone of Navadvip simply loved him. Even the atheists, but they could not understand who he was, but especially the devotees. In this way, Advaita Acarya was covered over by the transcendental will of himself and his Supreme Master, Lord Chaitanya. This was their Leela. So Lord Chaitanya lived in Navadvip as the greatest of all scholars. Later he went to Gaya and accepted initiation from Ishwara Puri. When he returned, he manifested the supreme opulence of the love of Srimati Radharani for Krishna. Nowhere, at any time, was such love ever displayed. The devotees were so much pleased to see that Nimai Pandit has become a Vaishnava. They ran to the house of Advaita Acharya to tell him. In great bliss, Lord Advaita exclaimed, "How last night I had a dream." Let me tell you about this. I was studying Bhagavad Gita, and every sloka of Gita I must explain in reference to surrender to Krishna with pure devotion. But I came upon one sloka where I couldn't figure out how this connects to pure devotional service. So I decided I cannot eat or drink anything until this knowledge is revealed to me. I began my fast. That night when I was sleeping, a wonderful personality appeared before me and told me, "Get up and eat. Your prayers have been answered. The Supreme Lord has descended on this earth, and in every town and every village he will propagate the glories of the chanting of the holy name." When I awoke, in my heart, I could only see the beautiful form of Vishwambar. His beautiful golden limbs resplendent like millions of suns. Then I understood that it is he who I prayed for all of these years. One day, Lord Chaitanya and Gadadhar decided to visit Advaitacharya in Navadvip. When they came, Advaitacharya was worshipping the deity with tulsi leaves. When Lord Chaitanya saw the bhakti of his devotee, he became so pleased that he fell unconscious. At that time, Advaitacharya took all the deity paraphernalia and began to worship the beautiful form of this small boy. At that time, he was hardly 20 years old. Advaitacharya was like his grandfather in age. He was worshiping the Lord by chanting Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmani Hitaya Cha Jagad Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. He offered all varieties of paraphernalia to the Lord. Gadadhar Pandit, who was the Lord's friend, he understood that the Lord had become a great devotee, but he could not understand why the king of all Vaishnavas is worshipping him like a deity. He said to Advaita Prabhu that, "Why are you worshipping this boy?" Advaita Acharya blissfully roared, "Oh Gadadhar, how long will you go on thinking that he is just a boy?" It was at that moment that Gadadhar Pandit understood that Vishwambar is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Then Sri Advaita Chandra decided that if this is really my Lord, he must prove it. I will leave this place and return to Shantipur, and only if he calls me back, reveals his opulences, and puts his feet on my head will I understand that he is really the Lord that I prayed for. It is not that Advaitacharya had any doubts in his own mind, but it is that he wanted to, through this pastime, reveal the supreme glories of Lord Chaitanya as the absolute truth for the whole world. Sri Advaita Prabhu's only purpose of his every word, thought, and action was to glorify Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He went to Shantipur. In the meantime, Nityananda Prabhu came to Navadvip to meet with Lord Chaitanya. One day, Lord Chaitanya said to the brother of Srivas Pandit, Ramai Pandit, He said, you go to Shantipur and you give this message to Sri Advaita Acharya. Tell him the Lord you prayed for, the Lord you worshipped, the Lord you fasted for with so many austerities, that Lord has descended in this world. I have come to fulfill your prayers. Please come here with your family members to worship me. Ramai Pandit went to Shantipur. When he came to the house of Advaita Acharya, Advaita immediately understood what was happening. In his heart he was thinking, my Lord is calling for me. He has fulfilled all my desires. He asked Ramai Pandit, why have you come? Ramai Pandit says, you already know, my Lord. Advaita says, where in the scriptures does it say that Krishna will appear in this age of Kali Yuga in Navadvip? Tell me, where does it say this? Ramai Pandit was silent. He replied with a smile. Advaita Acharya asked, what is the message the Lord has given? The message is that I am the Lord you prayed for. I am the Lord you fasted for. I am the Lord you worshipped. It is my name that you called out so sincerely and attracted me to descend into this world. Now come with your family members to worship me. When Advaita Acharya heard this, he fell to the ground crying out, he has come, he has come. I have brought him, I have brought him. Sita Thakurani, the wife of Advaita, Achyutananda, his little tiny baby son, they were all crying and jumping up and down, chanting the holy names. Let us go, let us go. They gathered the paraphernalia, immediately came to Navadvip. Advaita Acharya told Ramai Pandit, I am going to hide in the house of Nandanacharya. Do not tell anyone that I have come. If anyone asks you, where is Advaita Chandra? Tell them, he has not come. That day, Lord Chaitanya came to Srivasa's house. He sat on the throne of Vishnu. On rare occasions, for the pleasure of the devotees, he would actually manifest his supreme opulences as the personality of Godhead. But generally, he always maintained the role of a devotee to teach us the process of devotional service by his example. Sri Advaita Prabhu was so dear to the Lord. The Lord started calling out one of his names, which is Nara. He cried out, Nara, Nara. He is testing me. Ramai Pandit, go to Nandanacharya's house and tell him to come at once. I want to see him with my own eyes. Ramai Pandit immediately went to Nandanacharya's house. Advaita Acharya and his family came. They offered their prostrated obeisances at the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord said to Advaita Acharya that I have come to this world only on the basis of your love and compassion for the fallen souls. It was your prayers that drew me from the spiritual realm. Now please worship me. Advaita Acharya offered the 5 articles of deity worship, then the 16 articles of paraphernalia. He worshipped his feet, the Lord's feet, with tulsi leaves and chandan. He offered him incense and the lamps. He offered him water and bhoga, garments. He chanted, and then Lord Chaitanya ordered Advaita Acharya, please chant my holy names and dance for me. Upon hearing this, Advaita Acharya began to dance. As he was chanting and dancing, the devotees were struck with wonder. Sometimes he danced very, very enthusiastically. The next moment, very gracefully. Again, he danced with straw in his teeth, very humble. Sometimes he would roll on the ground, sometimes fall unconscious, sometimes he would roar like a lion. Sometimes he would come before the Lord, begging the dust of his lotus feet. In this way, he was dancing and dancing, covering the entire house of Srivas with his beautiful, beautiful dance. Lord Chaitanya asked Advaita, please ask any benediction from me. Advaita Acharya said, that you have given me the chance to dance for you. That is the fulfillment of all of my desires. I have no other desire. The Lord insisted, please ask for another boon. I have come to this world by your command to deliver even the most sinful fallen souls if they take to the chanting of my holy names. Advaita said, give me this benediction. Even if a person has committed the worst, most abominable sins, if he chants your holy name sincerely, deliver him. However, those learned scholars and wealthy materialists who are so proud that they offend others, even those who are endowed with the opulence of renunciation, who offend Vaishnavas, do not give them bhakti. Lord Chaitanya said, I agree. I will fulfill your desire. Advaita Acharya taught by his example the most essential truths that every aspiring devotee must realize in their life. His name is Acharya because he taught the world by his example. There is ocean of transcendental pastimes regarding the glories of Advaita Acharya. I would like to today very briefly explain some of those pastimes which illustrated so strikingly the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught that Krishna is a person, and you cannot approach him unless you worship him as a person with devotion. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he accepted initiation in the line of Madhvacharya, especially because Sripad Madhvacharya worshipped the deity of Krishna and utterly refuted Mayavad, impersonal philosophy. Srila Prabhupada, foremost representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, wanted us to understand the essence of his mission on behalf of the Lord. Thus, he personally authored a pranam mantra that he wanted us to chant each day. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Shatar. That he is not the Lord, that he is the servant of the Lord. He is the servant of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his spiritual master. And what is his mission? To eradicate impersonalism and voidism from this world and establish the pure principles of bhakti. During Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Vyas Puja, Srila Prabhupada wrote a beautiful poem. And one particular verse of that poem was most satisfying to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity thou hast removed. When Srila Saraswati Thakur heard this, he exclaimed to all the Vaishnavas, he has understood the essence of my mission. And for some time, wherever Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would travel and go, he would show the devotees and read them the wonderful glorification of Srila Prabhupada to show them, this is my mission. So Advaita Acarya, he was always eager to serve the Lord. However, because he was such a senior Vaishnava, Lord Chaitanya always wanted to worship Advaita Acarya. Sri Advaita Prabhu was the disciple of Sri Madhavendra Puri. Thus, he was Lord Chaitanya's guru's godbrother. And according to the etiquette of Vaishnavism, one should honor one's guru's godbrother the same way one honors one's own spiritual master. Advaita Acharya saw Lord Chaitanya as his worshipable Lord. He wanted to be accepted as the servant of his servants. But Lord Chaitanya worshipped him as a spiritual master. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya, because he was very strong like a lion, he would go to take the dust of Advaita Acharya's lotus feet, and there was nothing in the world that Advaita Acharya could possibly do to stop him. This is the position of Krishna over Mahavishnu. Same little Krishna who's crying in the lap of Mother Yashoda. Even Mahavishnu has no power before him. So one day, when Lord Chaitanya honored him and forcibly took dust from his lotus feet, Advaita Acharya was feeling so much pain in his heart. A materialistic person loves to be honored. People in this world taste sweet nectar when their glorifications enter through the holes of their ears and into their hearts. And nobody likes to be second to another. But a Vaishnava is Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Seheshnana, Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Sri Advaita Prabhu simply wanted to serve the servants of the Lord. It brought him so much pain when Lord Chaitanya would honor him. Thus, he decided within his heart, I am going to force the Lord to accept me as a servant. When the Lord punishes me, then I will know that he has accepted me as the servant of his servants. my Lord, he accepted the remnants of Durvas Muni. My Lord even accepted the footprint of Bhrigu Muni on his chest. But I am not Durvas Muni, and I am not Bhrigu Muni. My name is Advaita, and I am the servant of the Lord. The Lord has descended to this world to teach pure devotional service, unadulterated by any type of material enjoyment or mental speculation. I will teach impersonalism. I will broadcast that bhakti has no significance in the presence of impersonal speculation. And thus the Lord will take me by the hair and punish me. Thinking in this way, he went to Santipur, along with Haridas Thakur. There he began to study the Yoga Vashishta by Sripad, and according to the philosophy of Sripad Shankaracharya. And he preached so enthusiastically. He was preaching that the essence of all the scriptures is impersonal realization, and the only means to achieve that supreme perfection is through jnana, or speculative knowledge. All the scriptures declare this. In fact, devotional service to Vishnu is completely depending on impersonal speculation for its very existence. Devotion to Vishnu is like a mirror, and impersonalism is like two eyes. Without two eyes, the mirror has no value at all. I have researched all the scriptures in all the world, and I have come to the conclusion that the ultimate perfection of life is impersonal liberation. The Mayavadis, they were so happy. Advaita Acharya has finally understood the proper conclusions. And the Vaishnavas, they simply laughed because they understood that his mysterious behavior has a very special purpose to please the Lord. Lord Chaitanya always wants to please his devotees. He understood Advaita Acharya's desire. And within his heart, he decided, I will fulfill the desire of my devotee. So one day, Lord Chaitanya was roaming through the streets of Navadvip with Lord Nityananda Prabhu. With their own beautiful lotus eyes, they were observing the beauty of their own creation. Lord Brahma in Satyaloka was looking down, and he was so happy that Lord Chaitanya, with his own eyes, is seeing my craftsmanship of creation. This is the fulfillment of my purpose as the creator. The demigods looked down and they saw Lord Chaitanya like two beautiful moons, because they were so effulgent with beauty. The demigods were thinking that they were on earth and that the earth was heaven, Swargaloka. Everyone was attracted. Lord Chaitanya said to Lord Nityananda Prabhu, let us go to Santipur to visit the home of Advaita Prabhu. So they both began to smile and laugh. They walked along the banks of the river Ganges. Halfway between Navadvip and Santipur was a small village of the name Lalitapur. just near the bank of the Ganges, there was a little house. Lord Chaitanya asked Lord Nityananda Prabhu, whose house is this? Nityananda Prabhu said, it is a sannyasi's house. Lord Chaitanya said, if we are fortunate, we will get to see him. Let us go. So they entered the house, and they both, showing the etiquette toward superior personalities in position, they both bowed down before him. And the sannyasi offered a benediction. I grant you this boon, that you will enjoy great wealth, high learning, beautiful women, and good health. And much fame. Lord Chaitanya looked at him and said, that is not a good benediction. Wealth, fame, learning, and attractive women? What kind of a benediction is that for a sannyasi to give? A sannyasi is supposed to give the benediction that may Krishna give his mercy upon you. The sannyasi was very disturbed. He laughed in displeasure. He said, just see, what the scriptures say is true, that even if you try to do good to a person by giving him the most best gifts, that person will misuse you and beat you with sticks. What is wrong with the benediction I have given you? It is a good benediction. Lord Chaitanya replied, it is not a good benediction. If wealth and learning, fame, and having attractive women is actually the real benediction of life, then why is it that at the time of death all these things are taken away? The only thing that is eternal is devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the proper benediction. Actually, the scriptures say that one should bathe in the Ganges and chant the holy names, because by doing that one will get all sorts of material pleasures, and one will be promoted to Swargaloka after he dies. But these Vedic injunctions are only meant for ignorant fools. It's a way of tricking them to take bath in the Ganges and chant the holy names, because by doing that gradually they will give up the desire for material enjoyment and they will take to the path of pure devotional service. That is the real benediction. That is the ultimate perfection of life. And that is the benediction we desire. The sannyasi became even more disturbed. He said, just see how arrogant. This boy is completely crazy. What mantra has he been given to distort his mind? You are a devotee of Lord Vishnu? How do you think you will maintain your body and your devotion to Krishna unless you have wealth? I am a senior person. I have been to Mathura, Ayodhya, Gaya. I have gone to Badrikashram. I have traveled to all the holy places for all these years and performed so much penance and austerities. I've studied so many scriptures, and now a mere child still drinking milk from the breast of his mother is thinking he can instruct me. Nityananda Prabhu, seeing the condition of this sannyasi, he said, he's just a boy, my dear sir. Please do not argue with him. I know your glory. I know how famous and good you are. As soon as he heard himself praised, the sannyasi became very happy. He said, please, please, take your meal in my house. Nityananda Prabhu said, we have urgent business, we have to go. Just pack it and we will take it with. No, you please stay here. Take your bath in the Ganges, come back, take prasad, and then take rest. On the insistence of this person, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda went to take their bath in the holy river Ganga, and then they returned. And this sannyasi presented to them various fruits and some milk. Mangoes, papayas, jackfruits. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda offered that fruit with great devotion to Lord Krishna. They began to eat it. The sannyasi asked, when will I ever have such guests like you? He was looking at the incredible beauty of these two brothers. Can I give you some bliss? Lord Nityananda Prabhu, he had traveled to all the holy places for 20 years, and he had met all kinds of different people. So he understood this was a so-called sannyasi from the left-hand school of tantric worship of Shakti, and he was addicted to drinking alcohol. As they were taking their fruit, the sannyasi said again, can I give you some bliss? I have nice bliss. At that time, the sannyasi's wife came. She rebuked her husband. She said, why are you disturbing them? Let them eat their prasad. Meanwhile, she was glancing at them. She never saw such beauty in two beings before. Lord Chaitanya asked Lord Nityananda, what is he talking about? What is bliss? Nityananda Prabhu said, he wants to give you wine. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately stood up and said, Vishnu, Vishnu. They washed their mouths and went to Ganga and jumped in with all their clothes. This is a very important story. Vrindavan Das Thakur explains, even though this man was such a sense enjoyer, he was a sinful person. He was addicted to wine and women. But yet still, Lord Chaitanya came to his house, rested there, and took prasad there. This person did not become a devotee in this life, but in his next life he will become a devotee. However, Lord Chaitanya was so compassionate to give his mercy to such a sinful person. However, when Lord Chaitanya later on went to Varanasi, there were sannyasis there, but they were blaspheming the Lord and they were blaspheming devotees. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya would not show himself to them. When they heard of Lord Chaitanya's coming, they wanted to meet him. But Lord Chaitanya stayed at the mutt of Ramchandra Puri. For 2 months he hid in that mutt. He only went to the house of Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra, Vaishnavas. He never showed himself to these sannyasis. Why? Because these sannyasis were criticizing Vaishnavas. Even if one is very sinful, the Lord will give mercy. But if one criticizes the Lord and his devotees, the Lord will not give his devotional service. In fact, it is explained in this particular passage that even if one is a great sannyasi, if he criticizes other Vaishnavas, he will fall down. Lord Chaitanya later said, we will explain, that if one is criticizing Vaishnavas, if that person chants my name, through the name, I will destroy that person. Thus, Lord Chaitanya wanted to show how much he loves his devotees and how he will give his mercy to everyone and anyone. But he will punish those who blaspheme the Vaishnavas. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda entered into the Ganges. They swam all the way to Santipur. When they came out of the Ganges, they were all wet. And Lord Chaitanya entered into his mood of anger. He called out, Nara, a name of Advaita Prabhu. You called me to this world and now you are cheating me. You called me to this world to get me to teach devotional service, and now you are hiding the principles of devotional service by your preaching. Meanwhile, Advaitacharya saw Lord Chaitanya coming. He was right in the middle of a lecture from Yoga Vashishta. When he saw Lord Chaitanya coming in anger, he became ecstatic. He understood, my desires will be fulfilled. With even greater enthusiasm and louder voice, he began roaring like a lion. Impersonalism is the ultimate conclusion of the Vedas. That bhakti is just a subordinate principle completely dependent on mental speculation. This I know, this is the conclusion, this is the evidence. He was rocking back and forth. He was so much enthusiastic to preach. Lord Chaitanya heard this. He stopped Advaita in the middle of his pravachan. Advaita, tell me, which is superior, impersonal liberation and the path of mental speculation, or pure devotional service? Advaitacharya replied, like the thundering of a cloud. In all cases, in all circumstances, at all times, impersonalism is better than devotional service. Lord Gaur-Sundar was so angry. His eyes were red. Sita Thakurani was so fearful. Everyone was so fearful. They couldn't even look at him. Meanwhile, the Vaishnavas, they were understanding a very special Leela was about to take place. Lord Chaitanya jumped on the dais. He took Advaitacharya by the hair and dragged him off his seat, threw him on the floor, got on top of him, and began to beat him. He struck him again and again and again. As he was striking him, Sita Thakurani, the wife of Advaita, she was so much worried, even though she knew the Lord is all merciful. She started crying out, my Lord, he's an old Brahmin. He's a very old Brahmin. Please spare his life. What benefit will it do to anyone to kill him? What is this punishment teaching us? Please spare his life. He is so old. Let him be peaceful. As she was crying out, Nityananda Prabhu was loudly laughing. Haridas Thakur's heart was full of fear, and he started to loudly chant the holy name. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so much away from any external consciousness, he did not hear a word of Sita Thakurani or anyone else. He just went on striking and striking and striking Advaitacharya. He chastised him. I was peacefully sleeping in the ocean of milk, and your loud cries, Advaita Prabhu, woke me up. You prayed for me to come to this world to establish pure devotional service and spread it to the whole world. And now you are hiding the truths that I have come to deliver. Why did you even call me if you were going to preach against my very mission? You have cheated me. Then Lord Chaitanya sat down next to the door of Advaita Prabhu's house, and he entered into the mood of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He said that I am that Lord who with my fist punished and killed Kamsa. I am that Lord who even the demigods headed by Brahma, Shiva, and Lakshmi worship with their hearts and souls. I am that Lord who with my Sudarshan chakra I killed that false impostor of Vasudev called Pondraka. In Varanasi, with my Sudarshan chakra, I burned the whole city to the ground because they were offensive to my devotees. With my bow and arrow, I killed Ravana. I killed Banasura. I killed Narakasura. With the little finger of my left hand, I lifted Govardhan Hill for 7 days and 7 nights. I am that one Supreme Lord who took the Parijata tree for Swargaloka to bring down to this earth to please my devotee. It is me who cheated Bali Maharaj and placed my foot on his head. To protect Prahlad Maharaj, with my nails I tore Hiranyakashipu to pieces. The Lord was in his mood of punishing. When Advaitacharya heard these words, he became blissful. He began to dance. He was crying in ecstasy, dancing and dancing and dancing. He said, my Lord, this punishment you have given me is only a small portion of what I deserve. But today, you have revealed yourself as the Supreme Lord, and today you have accepted me as your servant. Where is your mentality of glorifying me and taking the dust of my lotus feet? Today, all my desires have been fulfilled. You have punished your servant. Then Advaita started dancing and chanting, and the devotees were struck with wonder. Everyone began to call out, Jaya, Jaya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then picked up Advaitacharya, who was at his feet. Advaitacharya was clasping onto the feet of the Lord, holding it to his head.